Definitely our most popular member of the Net That Haul crew, and you can definitely be our fifth crewmate now going forwards. Definitely be our fifth crewmate now going forwards.
Hello, darkness, my old
So,
friend.
just while we're
And good morning between game week 14 and game week 15 here of Net That Haul. This is the matchups show. It might look like the review show because I have a late edition. I was gonna be sailing this ship solo. This is I'm Gabe at FPL Lens on X, and I'm joined, thankfully, because I would have sunk this ship, by my good friend, my partner, my colleague, Lucian at teacher_FPL. How are you this very late night for you, my friend?
I've learned time and time again that my plan A's work brilliantly and my plan B's don't. And for some weird reason, I contrive these last minute plans that ruin my entire week. I sold Watkins for Darwin at the 11th hour. That literally ruined everything good I've done on Saturday. So I'm bittersweet about things, but I know where my process goes right and where it goes wrong, and I'm grateful for the clarity.
That's a good perspective to take, and we're going to take that perspective right into the FPL philosophy in a minute here. Just for the people in the chat, just to say hello a little bit and let you guys know kind of what's on the menu. This is going to seem kind of like a review show. We're going to go over the matchups that start tomorrow, actually, for game week 15. But a lot of it will be kind of talking about what went on over the weekend. And it will also be, hopefully, a somewhat abbreviated show just to give people enough time to kind of get this content into their brains, before today. I guess it has to be today. Well, for me, it would have to be today. I guess people have some time tomorrow. People over in Europe have some time tomorrow. If you see me swatting around like a crazy person, I got one fly in here. It's that one fly. So I'm just trying to get rid of that thing as we proceed here. So Chris, FPL Mariner, and Nima are obviously unavailable. They will be. I think Nima's coming back for the show midweek. Chris is still traveling. Let's say some hellos here to some people in the chat before we get going really quickly. K7, good evening, gents. How's it going? Big Mike is in the house. Greenback Golf, Luke is joining us this morning, but he may have to leave. He has a 20-month-old, so his hands are full. Claire FPL, howdy. Nice to see you, Claire. Nick Khan is joining us, probably on his lunch break over in New York. Hola, Nick. Combe Bugler, good evening. Nice to see you. Combe, I'm going to say nice things. We're going to say nice things about Fulham. Fulham have been fun to watch recently, and I think we have to acknowledge that. Who else is here? Dom is in the house, and FPL Soccer Crazy is here. Elron Cupboard has just joined us with an evenings. So nice to see everybody here. We're going to get right into this, starting with, and as we did last week with Mariner, I do have Mariner's FDR, so I'll be toggling back and forth between the matchup slides and the FDR slides. So we'll get right into it. The FPL philosophy for game week 15 comes to us from a French philosopher named Henri Bergson. This quote I think I used it a couple seasons ago, or maybe it was even as soon as last year. It rings a bell, but I don't remember specifically. But I thought it was appropriate for us here because there were a lot of people that saw a certain thing. For example, Watkins to Darwin, right? And there were lessons learned from transfers like that. I've heard several content creators talk about the lessons learned from that experience, right? And Henri Bergson comes and says, the eye sees only what the mind is prepared to comprehend. And this is basically the idea, and this is actually scientifically proven, that if you encounter something that you don't believe exists, you literally will not see it. If something doesn't fit within your scheme of reality, it will be invisible to you. And it kind of like takes the point of this is to keep an open mind. If you have an open mind, then you will miss less things because you will be you won't be expecting the reality to come. You will just be kind of just waiting, or like waiting for that apparition of consciousness in your mind, and therefore more open to any maybe divergent thoughts. And those divergent thoughts could give us keys and some nice gems in FPL. What do you think? First of all, do you understand this, teacher? Because every time this is like a one-sided conversation whenever I'm on the show with Mariner.
Yes. I mean, honestly, my day job involves forming these narratives with my students because I am a teacher in
Hmm.
real life. And at the same time, I do welcome any sort of additional narratives they want to interpret and add to the equation because no one has the full story of literally everything, right? So, yes, we have to open
Mhm.
ourselves to as many divergent possibilities, so long as we don't fall to the balanced argument fallacy of accounting for literally everything, right? That would be so stressful, I can
Mhm.
imagine. So, uh, yes, thankfully, FPL only gives us a couple of hundred options to choose from. I'm very open to that, so long as, yeah, we know which ones causes stress and which ones don't. I would rather not argue against this particular philosophy because I think, using on certain players, we can agree on certain things and we can disagree on certain things. And the
Mhm.
question comes down to which reality surfaces and whether we evaluate the reality that occurs as something that is low probability or something that we could have seen coming from a mile away.
Fair enough. I love that. And a good, I think, way to get into the matchups here. Here's an overview. 7 minutes in for the people in the podcast. Goes over all of the fixtures, all of the data, the NetxG, all the three metrics creating NetxG, the goal shots, goal percentage shots matchup. So come back and see this to get an overall holistic picture of the game week. But we'll go right into the first one here. You'll notice the slides are a little bit different. Going data slides with these short turnarounds, just to be able to get this content out to everybody. So we'll go Wolves versus Wolves hosting Burnley. So you're front and center here, right? Just to start off, Lucien. Wolves 1.61, NetxG, Burnley 1.35. None of the zonals really kind of like pop out that much. Goalkeepers don't pop out. It seems like a pretty drab affair, to be honest with you. It's not seeing that Wolves will necessarily take advantage of Burnley's notably weak defense this season. We'll flip over to the FDR really quickly. And this is going to be a little difficult because it's all on one slide. But I'll try to pick them out here. Wolves 1.4 attack FDR against Burnley. Burnley 0.3 against Wolves. Again, everything kind of muted. All the zonals look the same, obviously. There is an interesting headed matchup at 3.2 for Wolves. It's close to the best in the game week. Like Spurs, West Ham, and Wolves have a very similar headed matchup, and it's quite nice. Burnley kind of red across the board. How do you see this one, bud?
I wish I knew where crosses came from. Oh, goodness, I cannot recall the last headed goal we scored. Maybe Huang against Everton? But really, problem is a reliable chance creation. Wolves of late, without Pedro Neto, have been a side that has, started slow and forced themselves basically to come back into the game. It's not their fault that they've been given pretty difficult opponents. Full respect to Combe Bugler, like we cannot fight the forces of VAR, right? But I do feel that at this stage Wolves, again without Pedro Neto, it has to be said, would love to defy the stats, but I do agree that Wolves are limited to one goal because of Cunha's movement. I think Cunha
Mm.
rising this week is particularly deserved because he has overloaded so many spaces in the absence of Neto that 3-5-2 is doing a lot of work because of the advanced runs of Lamina and Belgard recently, as well as Pablo Sarabia in the late stages. So, I mean, for FPL relevance, with Lamina and Gomez all coming back at the same time, at least we can fully expect that Lamina will make those runs towards the right side, Cunha will make those runs towards the left side. And I would love to identify somebody for those hidden matchups, but I just blank. I literally just blank. All the goals that Wolves has scored so far have been with feet. Absolutely sure of that.
It's a Neto problem, isn't it? Neto is the guy that crosses.
Yeah.
And that's probably what they're missing. And if they did have a good crosser, I do think Dawson could be and would be an interesting pick. Just probably one of the most nailed defenders. But anyway, Neto's not back, so it's a bit of a moot point right now. Does Koleosho hurt you?
Yes, in theory, yes, because Semedo is our weak guy on the flanks. It just has to come down to an individual matchup rather than Semedo being overloaded, because Burnley
Yeah.
rarely use Charlie Taylor to overload alongside Koleosho. Taylor's usually like a couple of feet away. No, sorry, a couple of strides away from Koleosho. They very rarely work together down the same flank. So I do say that Koleosho will do bits on his own, and it just comes down to his finishing. Because as we saw against Sheffield United, Koleosho was not the talisman; it was Amdouni. So I fully expect Wolves to focus on the Amdouni Rodriguez partnership and just keep Koleosho as the lesser of two evils.
So 2 weeks ago, 2 game weeks ago, I brought in Jay Rodriguez in my draft team. And he's been a legend for me in draft after losing Callum Wilson and who else do I have? I had João Pedro, who's been doing okay, and then I had Mateta. So he's been saving me. Jay Rodriguez, who would have thought? It's been fun with him. Okay, not too much else to say on this one. I will say that what do you think about Hee Chan Huang as a honestly as a budget enabler?
The question is, do you dare, right? I mean, I've discussed this question with a lot of people, and really the popular five right now, as we've talked about as well on a couple of shows, right? Salah, Bukayo Saka, and like 7 million midfielders. The cheapest among all those, Anthony Gordon, who arguably should be priced at 7.0 anyway. So, you've got Mbomo, Sterling, Gordon, right, supplemented by any Liverpool midfielder you want, as well as whatever remainder Brighton midfielders that we still have. It's a lot of competition. I'd love to say Huang should be in the mix.
Well, I think if we're comparing, right, like I think Gordon is out of the comparison, but like for this how much is Huang? Is he 5.6?
5.4.
No,
5.4.
5.4. So if we're comparing, it's like Hee Chan Huang, Cole Palmer, Thomas Socek.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
I think
out of
with
those
these
three,
fixtures, yeah.
I wish I could say
Burnley,
Wolves.
Forest, West Ham. Before you guys play Chelsea, Burnley, Forest, West Ham, the next 3. I think Hee Chan is a great punt, sub 6 punt, honestly. Maybe better than Palmer for the next 3.
Yes, I mean, that's what you get for players under 6 million. The question comes down to how we use players under 6 million rather than, whether they're worth the price or whether they should be in our teams.
Correct.
Because, I mean, what kind of output do you expect from a player under 6 million, right? 1 out of 4, 1 goal out of 4, would we be happy with that? That's like par, right? So if you can get like a goal and an assist out of the next 4, sure, absolutely get Huang.
Got it. Claire makes a good point, and this is a point I often overlook. I have to admit, Chan on 4 yellow cards, and several players are on 4 yellow cards. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We'll move on to the next matchup fixture here, and I know it's one people will be keen on, and they're hoping to see some green in these. Luton hosting Arsenal. Luton 0.84 NetxG. Arsenal 1.42. Obviously, Arsenal's right is popping up a little bit, but nothing crazy here. We'll flip over to the FDR. We have Arsenal 1.5 attack, compared to Luton negative 1.4. So the FDR, much like NetxG, obviously likes a clean sheet here for Arsenal, but the data, the attacking data on Arsenal is muted. It's one of the main reasons I've gone triple defense without any Arsenal attack, while Saka just keeps destroying me. How do you approach this one? And number two, I guess I'd ask you is, are you buying the narrative that Arsenal, like dominant teams of the past, City for example, will probably often concede late in the game?
Right. So this is where your philosophy applies, really. So the question comes down to number one: do you believe that? No, really, like same data, same situation, same results, and we all see the same match. The question is: do you perceive it as Luton being shit, or do you perceive it as Arsenal being on the ascendancy? Because Arsenal with Odegaard back for the last two games have looked sensational. Never mind what the scoreline against Wolves last game week. My goodness, the XG and the big chances that Arsenal racked up were absolutely no joke. Like, my transfer this week was Martinelli to Odegaard. I trust Arsenal's right that heavily. I do feel that at this stage, it's a little bit different. I feel that the reality is a little bit different, where for the first 8 game weeks, we can safely say Burnley suck, Sheffield United suck, Luton suck, Bournemouth really sucked. And now it's changed. A lot of these teams, especially at home, are improving. Well, Sheffield United are still bad. But that aside, Bournemouth have improved. Luton at least have a disparity home and away. And Burnley at least are getting results. And at the same time, we see all these elite teams, these top 4 teams, getting their plan A back together, or at least some of their plan A back together, right? Arsenal are still missing Thomas Partey and Ben White for most of it. But at least that Saka Odegaard has so much influence on the right side that they literally determine whether attacks go down the right side, working with Tomiyasu, or they shift it all entirely to the left. It's back to plan A part 2, where so much of their influence is down the right side, where that Gabriel Martinelli from the left drifts over to the right side. So I do feel if anybody benefits from the left side, it's their new left central midfielder, Leandro Trossard. I'm sure a few content creators would have sneezed at that, but yeah, I think the massive punt in this particular game would be Leandro Trossard, because if you want somebody operating as a number 10 between the lines of Luton's, it is absolutely Leandro Trossard. Like, the number of late runs he had moving into the Wolves box and the number of big chances he got, made me sweat watching that game, that's for sure. Yeah, so I heavily back Trossard as the punt of this week.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about the frailty between Luton's lines for much of this season, and you've highlighted several in the review show, and you've highlighted several players that have done well between them. Here's what I question. I wonder what you think of this. That Trossard, like, there's such a heavy reliance on the right side, right? That Trossard is almost like a plan B. And I don't think Arsenal will need the plan B. He could, like, if this game gets away from, if Arsenal starts building a lead, or like Game State could say, well, now all the plans are working, so let's spread it around, or Luton really packs their left side and makes it a little bit difficult, and with that little bit of resistance, anything could happen, right? But I think I would favor what I saw differently in Arsenal, I guess, is Odegaard not being used so much as a target high up the field, but being used more for ball progression. So he's more of a progressive and creative talisman, rather than going straight from Partey to Saka, or send that ball forward where like those players and Odegaard included. Odegaard has been further up the pitch in games past, and therefore less effective, is what I'm trying to say. I think he's finding those pockets a little bit more by dropping and progressing the ball. The other thing that I saw differently is it's not a get the ball forward and possess. It's get, like in their last game, when our Arsenal was playing you guys, what I saw was get the ball forward and then keep recycling it, one touch passes here, there. Whereas you didn't see that before, but before it was a little bit stagnant. We've used the word constipated to describe Arsenal's attack, in the sense that they get the ball forward and then it gets slowed down. And then it's like this kind of lumbering, well, let's possess it slowly around the box. And that's where I think Arsenal's kind of attacking stats have dropped because of that. We saw something different against Wolves. Against Luton, I don't know what we'll see. I expect we'll see something similar to what we saw against Wolves, though, building on that confidence. And there's no bad asset, obviously, for Arsenal to have. But while you're highlighting Trossard, I would, in the same way, I would highlight Odegaard. He's already on the right-hand side. He's working between the lines once again. He's the conductor of the creativity there by dropping into the spaces rather than by pushing up so high. And I think all of that leads to him taking advantage of the spaces between the lines for Luton. So I think that move, while could be described as sideways, I love it. I think it's a clever Martinelli to Odegaard is a really clever move. I think Claire was in here. She's saying that she's holding on to Martinelli one more game week. Can't blame her for doing that as well. Martinelli owners for holding to for this fixture. FPL Discomfort is a little comment. Arsenal winless in their last 10 visits to Kenilworth. 6 draws, 4 defeats. It was 30 plus years ago. Hey, I was still alive back then. I'm sure many of us in the chat here were still alive. So I guess it still counts if it happened in our lifetime. I guess anything else from what? So I'm going to ask you. This is going to be the first game week, I hope, where I get my triple, and a nice one to have it, triple Arsenal defense. Fingers crossed.
I know, right?
Fingers crossed indeed. And I gotta say, I think Ben White could get me an attacking return.
Oh yes, I don't deny that. I mean, okay, so put it this way, right? Tomiyasu contributed against Wolves by occupying the right half space, making underlapping runs. So the question is whether Ben White will do the same thing. I would highly suggest no. But really, it's case to case, because when they went up against Wolves, they had to deal with the left centre back Totti, as well as the left wing back Bueno, as well as the left central midfielder Bellegarde. So Wolves were ready. They had a triangle there. Against Luton, no such triangle exists. It's probably going to be Doty caught further up the field, and it's Amari Bell caught further up the field now, and he's going to have Osho desperately having multiple attackers around him, shouting at Mpanzu, "Come back, come back, come back!" It's going to be chaos. It's going to be chaos. So that's my opinion of the triple.
Okay. As we're moving on here, just a little reminder. If you do have questions, throw them in the chat here. I'll star them. We'll get back to them later. I think we have like 1 or 2. If they are poignantly relevant to what we're discussing, we'll throw them up here as we go. With that in mind, let's go to the next one. Brighton versus Brentford. What a difficult one to call. Brighton hosting Brentford. Brighton 1.39 NetxG, Brentford 1.3 NetxG. Brentford really buoyed by the creativity, the CRXG metric, and that's likely because, and I can look it up here, likely because of the big chances. I think Brentford's big chances. We'll verify it here. And before I get to the FDR, we'll verify that with the big chance matchup in the FDR. The other thing I want to highlight is the goal percentage shots matchup. Again, just as a reminder, this is matched up. So like Brentford's shots and XG versus Brighton's shots conceded and XG conceded. It's a 46% chance of 2 or more goals for Brentford. Brighton are reeling a little bit. Moving on to the FDR. Brentford 2.0, FDR, Brighton 1.4. Big chance matchup does not light up for Brentford here in this one. It's a 2.5 for Brentford, 2.3 for Brighton. Shots on target, decent for Brighton with 5.5. Other than that, nothing really outstanding here, despite all of us owning almost everyone owns Brian Mbeumo at this point. Maybe some people are still holding Brighton assets. What do you see?
I saw a very sad Brighton side. I mean, I think it's quite clear that they have a team A and a team B, and team B showed up against Chelsea. Like you could literally see all the substitutes that came on were like Pascal Gross, Mitoma, James Milner. Brighton, yeah, they made a calculated risk. They took a calculated risk, and I think the reliance on their youngsters. I mean, the good news is that it it usually is the good results are usually over the horizon for Brighton. So the question comes down to when this second 11 suddenly gels together. There were superstars in that performance against Chelsea. Carlos Baleba, for example, the amount of ground duels he won would have just popped
Hmm.
up, at Stats Nerds. And um, I think at this point, right, you're just looking at individualism. Like Chelsea against Brighton was a purely an
Hmm.
individualism display, and for Brentford, the way they dismantled Luton, well, you know how it goes. You have one centre back that goes up, and he just creates chaos, and it just happens to not be Ethan Pinnock. Um, Brighton right now, with such a young team and such a volatile squad, have problems managing game state. The reason Brighton were looking in sixes and sevens in the first place was because they went 2-0 down so early, and both the corners, yet you know, like your entire plan A that you worked so hard for just goes out the window in 20 minutes. I mean, that really is Brighton's problem right now. Right now, like you look at all their losses that they've suffered against West Ham, for example, right? They just lost the plot so early in the game that they are forced to react every game, and you don't see a smooth transition of their plan A from back to front anymore. Like the verticality, the one touches. Now all you see are balls to Adingra, and you hope that Adingra beats like three people. You barely see any attacking cohesion down the right. So it's pretty much, yeah, every man for himself at Brighton at the moment. At least until the senior 11 comes back and we see Mitoma on the left, maybe March come back. Veltman's getting there. Veltman's actually starting to play right back a lot more often now. So the biggest question mark is Brighton's left back. It remains a weakness without Estupinian. Arguably, it was a weakness with Estupinian in there anyway. But yeah, this is gonna be a field day from Bomo, that's for sure. Um,
That's
yeah, yeah. This
yeah.
is
I mean
this is
that's what I'm thinking as well. Like the zonal doesn't light up, but remember that's just chances created from that zone. So the matchup is ridiculously good for Mbomo, and like you said, with Feldman coming back, it's tightening up on the other side, which will kind of like forces Brighton in that direction. I guess what I will say is I think Matoma's healthy, right? Didn't he? He's come on, right? Like is he
he came on.
expected to start midweek?
Yes,
He
I mean,
came on
I
and he
would be
hasn't started yet, right?
surprised if he wouldn't. Yeah. I would be very surprised if he did not start.
So I mean, Mitoma and Adingra hitting Brentford's defenseless flanks, their flanks, mids back there. I think especially Matoma, like if kind of Brighton's setup right now is look, like we don't have a team, all their whole structure is dismantled because they have no one to bomb from up from left back, they have no right winger, and so on. And it is about the 1v1 matchups. Then get Matoma 1v1 against Godos, right? Like every
Mm.
single time.
Yeah,
Funnel to
yeah.
Matoma, like ball to Matoma, Godos, ball to Matoma, Godos, ball to Matoma, Godos. So I do see something like if you have had maybe too many fires to get rid of Matoma and you're holding him now, I think this is a great match for him, and I do think he'll come away with something.
Yeah, there's an argument as well that Brentford are a very different team away from home. Like, I would not be surprised
Mm.
if Brentford give Brighton so much respect that they revert to the 3-5-2 instead of playing their usual 4-3-3.
Yes, I totally agree. I think Brentford do come out in a 3-5-2, and not in their 4-3-3 against even against a depleted Brighton side. As we get to the next match here, Crystal Palace hosting Bournemouth. Want to thank everyone for joining us in the chat. Nima showed up. Kieran FPL Discomfort's in there. Blue Danube Joe's in there. Shamil Ayman is there. And Ignatius Bryan has also joined. Do remember to smash that like for us. Got about 34 people in the chat. 15 likes so far. Helps us become more popular. And honestly, it just makes us feel good. So make us feel good. Like us. As we get to Crystal Palace versus Bournemouth, Crystal Palace shocking 1.85 NetxG compared to Bournemouth 1.25. Again, lifted by the creativity metric there. That's probably referencing the zonals, the kind of like bullish zonals for Crystal Palace, all of them above 3. So which the zonals really like they're good. They tell you what the chance matchup is. Like if there will be a lot of chances, there will be a decent amount of chances in this one. But if they're all the same like that, 3.7, 3.5, 3.3, then there's nothing to indicate where the chances will come from a stats perspective. So we'll get into the tactics of it in just a moment. Let's get to the FDR first. Crystal Palace 1.7 on the FDR, Bournemouth 0.5. Let's see, any of these stand out? Crystal Palace predicted almost 11 shots in the box. That could be interesting. I'm gonna have to disagree with that prediction, to be perfectly honest, Lucian. I don't see one. Who's gonna get the ball in the box?
You're right. You're right, because these numbers at some point had Eze in the side, at some point had Schlupp in the side, and the reality here is that Palace are going to be missing Schlupp probably and Eze once again. You're going to see Ole's on the right, Ayew on the left, and Will Hughes in a center suit running down the middle. And for Bournemouth, like Will Hughes, with that beard, right? And for Bournemouth, well, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but Tavernier and Semenyo have swapped flanks. I mean, I wrote a full AI style breakdown of Ryan Christie's 43 BPS on Twitter. Yeah, if anybody is curious why he did so well. I swear, Ryan Christie is something else. Playing from that deep midfield position. It's ironic that when Philip Billing stops playing, Bournemouth look really good, because they are starting to operate on two wingers and Solanke, instead of trying to operate based on Christie and Billing as a duel. So when you look at these numbers, yes, Palace will have the home advantage, and Ole's will no doubt be at the heart of everything. But as they showed against West Ham, Palace are still going to be all about set pieces and perhaps individual moments from Ole's, because that's Palace in a nutshell for you. They have absolutely no reason to create high XG chances unless Edouard hustles himself onto the rebound of a shot, probably his own shot. And because Edouard is like a budget version of Ollie Watkins. He's just a hustler that creates his own shot volume. He does not depend on people. And at the same time, as for Bournemouth, well, they're starting to strike a balance. You are starting to see the likes of Kirkesh creeping up the flanks a little bit more. So Iraola ball is very close. Very, very close. But as it stands, this Semenyo Tavernier thing is very interesting, because no zonals will tell you where Tavernier operates. He's been on the left for so long, he pops up here on the right-hand side, and I think Iraola wants to keep people guessing. And that's how it is. That's Bournemouth in a nutshell for you. However, I will say, if anybody has any insider, any leaks on Tavernier starting on the right side, yeah, you hold on to your Solankis, because Tavernier on the left basically pushes Solanke out of the game. It's amazing that Ryan Christie, Tavernier, Solanke triangle on the right side is absolute magic, as they showed against Villa last week. Yeah. Whereas Semenyo, he's like a one-man army. He runs, he dribbles, he shoots, he powers past people. Semenyo is literally a one-man army. It's quite amazing.
4.6 million, I think, right?
I have him.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. Yeah, fantastic. Another enabler there in Antoine Semenyo. Also, I'm glad that you brought him up because I was sorry that fly is here. The Cheaters Always Cheating podcast. I was happy to hear them talk about Semenyo as well and talk him up quite a bit. And another like tip of the hat to them. They mentioned a player we've been talking about for a few weeks now, Anthony Robinson, Jedi Robinson, hitting that half space. So that was cool to see. Their show this week was quite good. If you guys want to check that one out. Again, yeah, Semenyo is an FPL option. I would say Ignatius. I think he's as good as an enabler as some of the other ones. We got I think Clivert has been mentioned. Socek again for just 0.3 million more. So yeah, I think Semenyo is in that conversation.
It's more about rotation, isn't it? I mean, if you want to run a back line that has Trippier, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and another premium defender, then yes, you can have two budget attackers like Huang and Semenyo, and you rotate them up front. Yeah, doable. That's viable.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my budget attacker is Anthony Gordon. I got him at 5.4, 5.6. He started at 5.5, right? So I probably got him at 5.6. And yeah, he'll remain that, I'd imagine, all season. Second best midfielder under 9.5 million. Next fixture, Fulham hosting Forest. Fulham 1.43 NetxG, Forest 1.11 NetxG. Everything muted, everything red or white, just lackluster here. Forest, the Forest away, you'll see the goalkeeper data for I think it's Vlaco Dimos. It looks like a good goalkeeper matchup. I will say that's a very small sample size. There's not enough data to evaluate that goalkeeper. So I wouldn't take the goalkeeper data into account, despite that bright green there that is showing for Fulham. Moving over to the FDR, we have Fulham 1.0 in the FDR and Forest 0.2. So again, the metrics are in alignment for the most part this game week. Oh, I lost it. Just trying to see if anything stands out. Nothing stands out for Fulham. Things are even worse for Forest. Are you recommending any? I mean, nobody's buying players from these teams, right? Do you have anything to say? Should we move on? What?
I'd probably just say keep a lookout for Iwobi's positioning because, well, not to buy Iwobi, but Iwobi's position dictates who profits. So perhaps sometime in the far future on our second wildcard, at least we want to be knowledgeable about Fulham because at home I do feel that they are a decent side. The thing about Fulham is that they have so much depth that they started with Wilson and Iwobi on the flanks, and they ended up with Bobby Reed and I don't know, yeah, Kenny coming on for whoever it is. So I think the biggest piece of the puzzle here is how they have fixed their right side despite having Harrison Reed play there. But I don't want this to sound like a review show. So really, for me, it's about just trying to figure out, right? Do you feel that Fulham are going to be dependent on their wingers to create for each other, or will they eventually rely on number 9? Because as we saw here, or at least as we saw against Liverpool, Fulham, they go really hard when they attack opponents. I mean, they have a very solid and established plan A. So it's almost required that you know that Andres Pereira now is like the tireless workhorse that enables literally everyone else, and they bring him off on 78 minutes, you know? And then we also know that Fulham have a very solid plan B where they bring on their best ball players such as Tom Kenny and Bobby Reed with his pace and his underrated jump. Wow, if anybody has seen Bobby Reed's goal, oh, that's a very, very good jump. But yeah, beyond that, I think Fulham themselves are a side that have been around for quite a while now, right? 1.5 seasons. And I think they are unique in the sense that every player in that side has room to gain an extra dimension. They are a team capable of growing in the league, within the league. And that is something I feel a lot of other teams lack. You know, a lot of other teams, they just have the same 90% of squad, and they have like 1 to 2 players that grow as gems. Whereas Fulham, they grow together as a squad, they become better together, and that is why we suddenly see Robinson pop up way more efficient positions, and we see Williams' output like become so much better. You know, eventually we'll see the supporting cast chip in with goals and assists as well. You know, Wilson chipped in here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're part of the conversation during the game week 27 wildcard.
Hmm. So one thing I will say is Forest aren't a team known for taking many shots. So I don't see this so much as I mean Leno is a good keeper, and Fulham could likely keep a clean sheet. It wouldn't surprise me if Fulham kept a clean sheet at home in this one. But I don't think it'll be because of Leno. I think it'll be more because of players like Palhinha and stuff like that. And back to someone we've been talking about is Jedi Robinson. I like him again in this fixture. And you've mentioned how when Fulham are able to retain the ball a little bit on the right hand side, that opens that left half space for Anthony Robinson. And sometimes it's a diagonal ball, sometimes it's a Iwobi dribbling across the middle to find a little through ball. But that is a thing, like pulling kind of pulling the Anthony Robinson slingshot, holding possession on the right hand side is the cue to slingshot Anthony Robinson into the space. So if you do own Anthony Robinson, congratulations. I think it's really an astute pick. And I do see more goal involvements in the future for him. Next match, Sheffield United hosting Liverpool. I mean, the data is not surprising here. There's a 53% chance of 2 or more goals. NetxG 2.29. Sheffield United NetxG 1.22, which is interesting, indicating perhaps a goal, maybe something from the right hand side. Although they did lose Baldock, I don't think it's too serious, but I don't think he'll be available for this one. I have to check on that. Let's see. I mean, everything green, everything obvious. And that goal, like for Sheffield United, could come. Especially, I mean, Queven Keller. He's just not very good. He never has been. I was watching the game with my son, and he's asking me why would Liverpool keep a player like that on the roster. And then I reminded him to when we watched the Champions League final together. And that's what Liverpool does. They're not very good at choosing goalkeepers sometimes, or backup goalkeepers. Let's put it that way. Moving over to the FDR here, Lucian, and we have Sheffield United with 0.6 FDR. Again, that's not that low. Luton is about 2 times lower than that. So negative 0.6 is interesting. And then obviously for Liverpool, highest of the week by far, 4.5. Right side zonal matchup stands out, 4.8. 5 chances from that right side. I want to hear your thoughts on whether Salah will be more creator or more finisher in this one, Lucian. And then it has all of the other kind of like matchups there. Big chance matchup. I kind of see that one happening between 3 and 4 big chances in this game. Wouldn't surprise me. Hopefully that none of those fall to Darwin, so Liverpool can score some goals.
Who did Sheffield United play last week? Arsenal? Wait, no. Burnley. Right. Okay. Oh dear goodness.
Smashed.
Tough. I mean, okay. I think let's start with addressing as many basic points as possible. The first question, right, is how Sheffield United bad, because I think a lot of us are wondering, right? Like, okay, fine, Liverpool are about to play Sheffield United, but I have to choose between Darwin, Diaz, Soboslai, Tsimikas, like Trent. We've got so many options, and we can only pick 3 players. So, I'm gonna start with where Sheffield United fell over against Burnley. So the first is definitely their right side. They have a lot to work out on that right side, and if Baldock truly is unavailable, they're gonna play Jaden Bogle there, who's better as a striker. Really, I mean it. He's so much better as a striker compared to a wing back. It's exactly like Godos. So this is definitely Luis Diaz territory. Yeah, yeah. So congratulations in advance, Gabe. That is definitely due a huge haul there. Um,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, big congratulations to Simicast owners as well, because I do feel that right now, Liverpool, just like Arsenal, are a force that creates with their right and finishes with their left. And this really comes down to Darwin Núñez's movement down the right side. You need triangles. You still need triangles. And Liverpool's left-sided triangle is a lot deeper compared to their right because
Mm.
of, well, Trent Alexander-Arnold's movements as well. Right, Gabe, I've already sent you a few screenshots. Trent has been popping up very regularly in the left half spaces when they attack.
Mhm.
Baffling? Maybe. I don't know why he's there, to be honest, because I don't feel that he contributes that much yet. I would much rather see Gravenberch maraud up the field, as if he were the successor of Naby Keita. But as it stands, right, I don't know if they're going to do that thing where they swap Trent into centre back and they push Matip out to the right. But I think if they play, so you've got two different versions of Liverpool. Okay, so I'm going to give caveats here, and everyone that listens to this should really place their judgment based on which Liverpool will show up. If the 4-3-3 Liverpool shows up, where Trent plays right back because they do not perceive Sheffield United as a threat, then you don't buy Trent, right? You go with your Nunes and you play Salah, and Salah's probably going to play striker once in a while. They'll get loads of penalties, and all the goals are going to go down the right side. Now, if they play 3-2-3-2-4-1, rock and roll. If they play 3-2-4-1 Liverpool, where Trent starts at right back and moves all the way into left advanced midfield, then all the goals are going to come from the left side. And I'm just going to keep it that concise because, yeah, it could be one of either.
Well, I mean, I think I don't know that Trent's assignment, and I mean this, I don't know, is the left half space. I think his assignment is whatever space opens up from his movements from right back into central midfield. He was only followed so much, so he continued his movement into the left side where there will be more space because most of Liverpool's creativity does come from the right. So there's just more bodies in that area, and Mohamed Salah obviously attracts a lot of attention. So I think they're looking for. I think Klopp is looking for space for Trent. And against Sheffield United, my guess is that he will be needed. He will move out of the back four. So I think all of that aligns. If you're a Trent owner, honestly, I take my hat off. I think he was a really somewhat risky because of the investment. Everybody's going Núñez because he gets XG, and Trent hasn't really shown a lot of what his potential can be. And against Fulham, I thought he really showed it. Now, there, I have to give this some time just because I am who I am and people keep talking about it. Black screen, regular viewer here. He thinks that you're going towards hearing a Darwin captaincy incoming. What's your perspective on Darwin specifically in this match? And do you think Darwin starts? Because I don't think he starts. Maybe, but
The purpose of it, right? I mean, Burnley already gave a really strong template where J. Rodriguez of all people towered over Trusty, I think, to score their first goal literally in the first minute. I mean, who's to say Darwin wouldn't do the same thing? This is literally the ideal hated matchup for Darwin. I mean, I love Luis Diaz to play the number 9 once in a while. If Darwin were to be rested, then yeah, I definitely foresee Diaz as the number 9 rather than Gakpo. You know,
Luis
even though
Diaz
in
is a
theory,
better header of the ball than Darwin is.
well, I think Diaz is a better jumper, but Darwin's stature, you know, with his broad shoulders and all, he just gets into better positions. Whereas Luis Diaz doesn't need position. So yeah, like different what's the word? You use a basketball term here. I'm gonna use a basketball term here because I play a lot of basketball. You box out in a different position,
Yeah,
you know, as a center compared to when you play as a
yeah.
small forward or a power forward. But yeah, Darwin, you know, the question is whether you will overpower the Sheffield United defender by getting onto his blind side and score like Diaz does, or will you just literally jump over him? You know, so comes down to the
So
quality
the
of
what?
cross.
Hmm,
Yeah, I think really what I would add is that it comes down to the quality of
hmm.
cross, because that cross put in by Charlie Taylor is a typical outswinger begging for someone to literally just meet it. You don't have to do anything clever, you just have to meet it. You know, that kind of standard outswingers that it just require you to be in the right position.
Sure.
Hmm.
And yeah, what I would say, I guess, is in that specific in crosses, yeah, maybe Darwin can get something, but he's going to be playing against a deep back three. What Darwin's not going to be swiveling into space against a deep block like this. And that's why I thought
That is
maybe, huh?
yeah. No, I mean, I refuse to talk about the swivel because I feel that his decision making in his movement is really what's costing him here. Because if you start central and you move out wide, you are forced to wrap your foot around the ball and shoot better, you know? But Darwin Núñez, especially on counter attacks, starts in a wide position and then he moves in. So I think,
Mhm.
you know, whenever a striker takes a shot, there are two parts to it, right? The striker has to take up a good position, and at the same time, whoever that passes to him also has to play the right kind of pass. So when you look at the two goals he got against Newcastle, the passes that were played to him were actually overhit, and he was forced to run wide and take shots that were
Mm.
technically low XG. Whereas the one where he hit the bar against Fulham on the counter attack, right? He was going forward and he took a wide position, but he was forced to run in because Salah's through pass to him was too central. So Darwin had no choice but to run through the ball and, you know, not place it anywhere. And that's where you get the lack
Mm.
of swivel.
So
It's
I'm gonna I think I'll push back on that one a little bit. Salah put that ball the only place he could put it because Darwin's run was too flat rather than curved. If Darwin curves his run, he creates space for Salah to maybe play a better pass there. But if Darwin is going to make that narrow run, the reason you make that narrow run, it's not a crazy run to make. The reason you make it is because you can beat the player, is because he thinks he can just get past the player with speed. 1v1 straight line speed. So you go with straight line speed, but you know that ball is going to be hit quite tight if you're going to make that narrow or that flat run. Knowing that your touch has to kind of like usher the ball forward, and then you put the as you usher the ball forward, then the ball is then your body is between the ball and the defender, right? But he didn't do that, and then he had to take the shot with the ball a little bit behind him, so the ball sails a little bit up on him, so it hits the crossbar instead of going in. These are all like technical things that a striker needs to understand intuitively, and Darwin has not been a striker for very long in his career in general. We have to remember that. So he's a converted striker, right? He's 24 years old, but he's playing maybe as a little bit of a younger or more naive striker because he's kind of catching up, and he's got a great I think he's got a great student mentality. It looks like he's learning and he's willing to learn, and he but for me he's not there yet because of these little things. And then we put it all on the finishing. It's not all the finishing, it's a lot of the things that happen before the ball actually gets kicked. And that's why, like, I get why people want Darwin in their team, right? You can see him being on the brink. You can see when you watch the games, you can see why people say he's due. But for so I understand including him in an FPL team, but anything beyond that, like the captaincy shouts, I think that is just quite extreme for a player who's just doesn't have the skills yet. He just hasn't developed them yet, and I think it's time to accept that fact.
I think I'm going to round up this argument with 2 points. The first being captaincy viability. Um, the problem with Darwin being captain is that even if he scores a goal, he's not guaranteed to get bonus because he gets dispossessed so much. He runs into offside positions so many times deliberately, right, to stretch lines. And I just feel that he would be a solid 6-pointer if he gets something. But I will say that against Sheffield United's deep block, I do feel that it favors Darwin Núñez because if there is one thing that Darwin Núñez is doing very well when he first came to this league, is that he is fantastic at making near post runs and generating really solid shots from near post runs. That was quite evident against Fulham, actually, the way he linked up with Salah at the near post. And I look forward to seeing him challenge, Sheffield United's outside centre backs at the near post.
There's a lot of anytime I talk about Darwin, people think that I'm ranting or trashing him. So there's a lot of stuff in the chat. Akib says, just say Darwin is shite now, maybe viable. Shite now, maybe viable in the future. Ignatius, so how long are we holding Darwin after Sheffield sell?
Ooh,
Honestly,
that's a good question.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm holding on to Man United. After Man United, I'll sell.
After Man United sell. Okay, that's when are they? Is it in? When do they play Man United? Is it 17? Yeah, 17. 17. Yeah. Okay, interesting. All right, we'll move on. We're at 56 minutes. Again, thank you for the likes. 40 of you in here in the chat. Great chat as well. And we're gonna move. I'm gonna try to get through. We have 4 more fixtures to go. Let's try to get through them by an hour and 15 minutes. And then we do have a few questions. We don't have many questions, and then we'll get out of here. And it is about 2 a.m. for you, Lucian. So I know you're struggling to keep your eyes open. So we'll move on. See if we can get these done quickly, even though this one does include several of our assets. Aston Villa hosting Manchester City. Villa 2.12 net XG compared to City 1.47, which is really interesting. I mean, Villa at home are just monsters. But Man City taking the zonal matchup here with 4.8 down the center and 4.0 down the left. There are some injuries which we'll get to and talk about injuries, and there's an important suspension that we need to cover as well. Let's take a look at the FDR. Aston Villa 2.0 compared to Manchester City 2.8. So the FDR does like Manchester City a little bit more, but it is pretty even there. The zonals we already covered. Really, none of these matchups light up. I mean, the shots on target matchup at 5.9. So I've gotten rid of the shots on target match goal predictor. The sample size for shots on targets is so small that it's just kind of like that. I feel like it doesn't add that much value. So I don't know. Even like 5.9 shots on target, not all shots on target are weighted equally, I guess. So and then was I reading the wrong one there? Oh yeah, I was reading Liverpool. My bad. So it's at 5.9 shots on target. There it is. And other than that, nothing really stands out statistically. From a tactical perspective, how do you see this one?
Well, Villa are the mystery here because if you try to get me to predict who would start for Villa, I get maybe 8 out of 11 correct. You could predict the back 4 somewhat. Like, we don't even know if Konza or Cash starts this particular game because I think Villa would be happy having Konza on the right side, being more defensive against Jeremy Doku potentially. Yeah. But of course, yes, I know that there are Doku injury rumors. So Jack Grealish has proven himself to be, sort of quote unquote back. Yeah, this is tough, isn't it? Well, I'm going to start with Man City because ironically they're the more predictable side. Uh yeah, 3-2-4-1. The question comes down to whether they rely on their flanks to actually create chances, because it was notable that City, as they came to a close against Spurs, they pushed more to their right side because Rodri's there. And I think what we can also understand, or at least assume, is that for this particular matchup, right, no one's going to buy a Man City player just to target this Aston Villa fixture. Similarly, no one's going to buy an Aston Villa player to target this Man City fixture. I think first and foremost, right, you field all attackers you have. And the question comes down to whether they are worth benching for any defender that has a potentially good fixture. I mean, that there are quite a number of good fixtures this week for budget defenders, arguably. I'm sure a lot of people, right, besides their triple Arsenal defense, potentially are going to have Simicas. And really, like, it's your 4.5 million defenders that are the 50-50, right? Do you bench a Diaby? Do you bench, something like that? So, I mean, okay, we're going to start with Man City's defensive frailties, because that will definitely directly answer Aston Villa's attacking output. So, in terms of Aston Villa's attack, we know that for sure they will not to say intentionally be unpredictable, but they will exaggerate a particular advantage down a particular side. So, for example, they use Tielemans, normally a central midfielder, on the left side, just so that he works with Lucas Dean and Ollie Watkins on the left side. It's incredibly deliberate how Emery identifies a key zone, and then he just chooses to overload that zone for exactly 45 minutes, and he just switches to something more conventional in the second half. So I think Spurs gave a little bit of an inkling of where Man City could be exposed, because their 3-2-4-1 system, right? Yeah, I do believe it's still a 3-2-4-1. It has very little coverage down the flanks. Like, Man City's back three can actually be stretched if you run at them. So I do foresee Aston Villa choosing a flank. They could go down their left, they could go down their right. That is the one that I'm still 50-50 about. And the question is, Leon Bailey. Will Leon Bailey be the star of the show? Because he was certainly very, very good against Bournemouth, to the point where he was roaming literally all across the pitch, popping up on the left even. So, similarly, right, if you are 50-50 on whether Diaby starts, you've just got to ask yourself, is Leon Bailey going to be an important player? Yes, bench Diaby. If no, then just start Diaby and accept whatever that comes. That's Aston Villa's attacking prospects. So, just a quick one on Julian Alvarez, because I think, like me, I'm usually a very decisive manager with hits. I sold Alvarez, and I was very glad to see that Alvarez's only output against Man City was like that beautiful free kick that he swung in for his assist. But beyond that, I do feel that Alvarez just doesn't do enough in open play. Yeah, because I don't foresee Man City going up against a deep Aston Villa side. Aston Villa will definitely challenge them, and it just comes down to who they play in central midfield. So if Villa are going to press up to Man City, as Liverpool have done, as Newcastle have done, as many other sides have done, to show that it's viable, then City are definitely going to rely a lot on their flank stars. So if Jeremy Doku is fit, he is an absolute hold. But otherwise, I'm not very hopeful for the likes of Foden and Alvarez in this particular case, because Villa's weaknesses are definitely on the flanks. Barely anything central.
So a couple of things. Let's get to the injuries first, and we will give this fixture a little bit more time. So, Rodri's suspended, 5 yellow cards. Grealish suspended, 5 yellow cards. Doku has a knock, 50%. Basically, we don't know anything on Doku. So we could see Foden on the left, and Bernardo Silva on the right. But regardless, I think what this does is it puts more emphasis on, and especially given Villa's strengths in central midfield, on the way Bernardo Silva progresses the ball. And I think that will kind of dictate who the secondary option moving forward will be. And including it could be Bernardo Silva himself, right? So I kind of agree with you that we have had confirmation now a couple of weeks that that Alvarez's role has at least from in open play has decreased. So I agree with you. Selling Alvarez is a good idea. I still own Alvarez, so he's not a sell for me just yet. I guess what I wanted to ask, well, from Villa's perspective, I think it's the right. I think it's attacking City's left. Similar, obviously Son's counterattack comes to mind. And if I'm thinking, I'm trying to put myself in Emery's mind space, right? And I'm thinking if I want to attack that left side, be it Ake, be it Guardiol, then I think Bailey played Villa played a 4-4-2, right? Bailey played right midfield against Bournemouth. Is that right?
Nominally, yeah.
It was Luis, and for the most part, like anytime we talk about formations, it's tricky because formations are situation dependent, of course. But Zaniolo played up front with Watkins ish, right? Could you see a world where Konza plays right back, Bailey plays right mid, and Diaby plays up front, and then and by having that strength on the right hand side with Bailey and Diaby, that kind of speed attacking that left center back, I think could be really interesting for Aston Villa. So I would watch out for that. I think that could be a good setup and a good outlet for Villa. But I do agree the kind of like the Fodens, the Alvarez, I think a lot of them I think they'll be met with resistance in this one, or at least unpredictability. The kind of resistance where one may be blocked and then the another might get through. But I would not be going in that direction myself.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, we need
Okay.
reliability to chat more.
Yeah. Manchester United against Chelsea. Here we go. Another controversial team here. Manchester United 1.34 NetxG, Chelsea 1.69. Manchester United flanks really, like as far as zonals are concerned, Manchester United flanks are sticking out 3.8 on the flanks with only 2.6 down the center. FDR coming in at Manchester United 0.4. So kind of the same, maybe a little worse than NetxG. And Chelsea 1.9, so quite solid, quite robust here, bullish for Chelsea, I guess is what I would say. Despite the zonals not popping, it's interesting because none of Mariner's matchups are really popping. The XG, the big chances, the shot on target, shots in the box are headed, or zonals, none of those are popping. But Chelsea with a 1.9 favorable FDR against United here. I mean, let's start with United because they're home. What did you learn from United against Newcastle?
That they're a mid-table team unable to challenge the established top 4, top 6. I mean,
okay, I'm going to stop you there because I want to take that and kind of counter, like superimpose it on what do you know about Chelsea?
that they have a lot of good players, but none that stand out enough to consistently win games. Yeah. They have really good players, like top 6 players, but they just don't have a consistent game plan that is inevitable and unstoppable. Like we can wax lyrical about Liverpool and Arsenal's right as creators. We can talk about Man City's flexibility, Villa's flexibility, Newcastle and Trippier, as well as their right-sided triangles. But you talk about Chelsea, you'd be like, oh yeah, great players, great set of players. Who's the game winner? Still a mystery.
I mean, what I see in this game, whether I don't know if there will be goals or not. My sense is that it will be somewhat low scoring because you have basically two dysfunctional teams. You have one team with disgruntled players because of no comprehensive or comprehensible system. Varane is still nowhere to be seen, shockingly. Rashford has given up. He seems to have lost the locker room. And I think the club needs to decide if they're going to be with the players or be with the manager, because right now it's a team divided with zero direction. And then Chelsea, it's just a team that without identity, I think, and without like there's no system coming to the forefront here. So yeah, it is about the energy of individual players. And when you rely on the energy of individual players, Gallagher's going to get a red card. It's not the first time this happens, right? But at the same time, it's kind of also hard to predict who are the players that are injecting the most energy into the side. Well, currently it's Sterling and Palmer, but without any kind of systemic argument to back that up, it feels very punty in a sense, or at least random, recommending any one of those two. So this game is kind of it's a toss up for me. I'm just saying, like, I have no idea how this one's going to play out. It's going to be an interesting write up for matchups.
I mean, yeah, I feel for you, because I think, it's not going to be very FPL relevant. So I'm going to speak to the reality of the situation, right? Because whenever you assume that two established and organized football clubs are about to play each other, they will each have their own system, a system in attack, a system in defense, and you give each other enough respect during the match, and you defend in the way you want, and opponents will attack in the way they want. There's usually very little disruption according to each team's plan A. But when you see two teams sort of reliant on chaos, but not good chaos, not controlled chaos, but just schoolyard chaos, that's exactly what you're going to get here. You are either going to get really bad quality football where no attacks become cohesive, or you're going to get really entertaining football where
Right.
both sides make a hell of a lot of mistakes, because that is what I foresee happen actually. Not in terms of fouls. I don't think there's going to be a lot of bad blood, because I don't see Man United's midfield as competitive as Chelsea's. I don't think McTominay, Mainu, or Bruno Fernandes is suddenly going to have a bender. Or Bruno Fernandes might, but everyone else might. It's relatively even tempered, and they won't suddenly have rivalry head on, and they'll start going about looking for blood. Similarly with Chelsea, without Conor Gallagher, it's very likely, based on the last match, Yugo Chogu might come in as a defensive mid alongside Caicedo, and that spells trouble, at least defensively. Yeah, I really foresee a lot of schoolyard errors occurring in this particular match, and this spells great news for Nicholas Jackson, of course, against Harry Maguire and whatever entertainment he comes with. And I don't see Chelsea making that many errors in defense, but I do foresee someone like Marcus Rashford, Garnacho, just a number 9 randomly having space, running at the back four and not knowing what to do. Yeah, could be Martial even.
Could be Martial. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Let's move on. Everton versus Everton hosting Newcastle here. Everton 1.31 NetxG. Newcastle better, but just not by much. They're 1.58, so pretty close. Everton with the strong central matchup in this one. Kind of muted stats across the board. Let's take a look at the FDR. Everton 1.0, so kind of the same there, and then Newcastle 0.6 and slightly below. Again, the FDR is the FDR agrees with NetxG. Again, Everton central matchup popping up a little bit for Mariner as well. I lost Newcastle. No matchups. Newcastle is bright red away, huh? Newcastle home monsters, much like Villa. Are you with the data here? Do you think that Everton could well, at least the FDR data. The FDR data likes I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna disagree with the FDR data. Let's stick here with the NetxG because it just makes more sense to me. What do you see?
I think we have to recognize that Newcastle have been through quite a bit of change. They've basically come out of their turbulent period with a brand new superstar. Miley playing right central midfield is pretty good actually creatively. He's kind of like one of those underrated players, and once he gets a couple of assists, everyone will turn their heads and go, "Oh, isn't this guy supposed to be Elliot Anderson V2?" So I think yes, it's reasonable to disagree with the FDR because they've not caught up to Newcastle's attacking output. Like you see that performance against Man United, and there is absolutely no reason to replicate that against Everton. I do feel though that Everton will test Newcastle with relatively high pressure. But of course, that's not exactly FPL relevant because you've got to ask yourself, right? If you were to invest in Anthony Gordon right now, right? If you had a chance to look at Newcastle's fixtures and go, okay, Anthony Gordon is the most transferred in player. I can tank one bad fixture because I've got a good first sub. And if Gordon's injury is short term, I'd love to have him for the next foreseeable future. Would it be worth it if he does start against Everton? Because you look at it, right? And first and foremost, that Anthony Gordon Ashley Young matchup is salivating. Salivating? Yeah, it will make you salivate for sure. Secondly, this Newcastle high press, the secret sauce of Newcastle doing well is their high press. And if you see an away team pressing the home team back, I do foresee Everton flustering at the very least. Because I don't think Everton will bring that same game plan to Newcastle. Everton are a much more pragmatic side where they only use high pressure in their own half. So there is some reason to believe that Isak will be thwarted. But beyond that, yeah, I do believe that Newcastle will still have majority of the ball here despite being the away side. The question comes down to our new potential gem in Martin Dubravka. I know about the David De Gea rumors and the ruling about him not needing to sign any contract or whatever because he's a free agent now. But yeah, I do believe like whoever we know starts as Newcastle United's goalkeeper, I do believe is not to say an upgrade for Nick Pope, but will definitely put himself in the limelight to make way, way more saves. Because, well, as we all know, Nick Pope is basically a robot that can only shift himself sideways. So, having a conventional goalie right in front of him is going to be quite entertaining. Like, we're going to see Martin Dubravka have his positioning, especially severely tested. But yeah, coming up against Everton, I definitely can see him getting a whole bunch of saves, and I do believe that is what people want, as compared to the boring and dysfunctional Areola Turner rotation that has plagued all of us for way too long. I lost your audio.
That's my fault.
Oh.
I was on mute.
Sorry.
Sorry. You panicked. So my bad. So what I was saying is just that Pope is a disaster when Pope is a disaster when he has to move vertically. Like, it's like the universe turns inside out and he becomes a single-celled organism or something and forgets everything he's ever learned or evolved into as a human. But recently, I'll say hasn't even been great moving laterally. And I keep referencing that. I mean, I'm still shocked by Raheem Sterling's free kick goal. Pope couldn't even be bothered to take one step to his right. He couldn't even be bothered to put his arm out. So it is a drop. Like, Dubravka is not a better goalkeeper than Pope, but does add more mobility and isn't a terrible goalkeeper. So I don't think the drop is too bad. I guess there were some pictures in regards to Botman and Lascelles. I think obviously Lascelles has been playing quite well. I don't think they need to rush Botman back. If they were close to surgery on Botman, like he could be pictured in training and he could still be weeks away from the field. I think it was a hamstring injury, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? So,
Oh,
just
wait, for Pope?
is that no for Botman?
Oh, for Botman. Can't
Knee
remember.
injury. So Botman has a knee injury that almost, or they weren't sure if it was going to require surgery, and he just stepped back in training this week. That doesn't mean that he plays in the weekend. I mean, he might. I don't know what the injury is or anything like that. What I'm saying is with Lascelles playing so well, I do think that they can afford to be cautious with that player, with Botman. And when with a knee injury that came close to surgery, my guess is that they will. Is that you still have a few more weeks out of Lascelles before he becomes a problem, but he will become a problem maybe even before game week 18. So just keep an eye on that. Moving to the last fixture here really quickly, and then we'll get to some questions and I got the questions in Discord. We got some questions starred, so do start dropping questions in on the chat. We'll star them and then go through them quick fire because we're an hour and 20 minutes in. I think we can do it in 15 minutes. All of it in 10 to 15 minutes here, Lucian. So let's give it a shot. Tottenham hosting West Ham. Spurs with 1.88 NetxG. West Ham 1.56, so not too far behind. No surprise that Spurs left and central matchups are zonal matchups are kind of highlighted here. Spurs aren't the shot creating behemoth that they were at the beginning of the season. I think the loss of Maddison has certainly impacted that, and it's reflected there in the goal percentage shots. Matchup. Let's take a look quickly at the FDR. Spurs 2.9, so quite solid here, the second best of the game week. And West Ham 2.1, so it does see also goals for both sides. So anybody owning kind of Spurs defensive assets, you may be a little bit disappointed. I'm going to say one thing quickly about Spurs, their defense. Udogie does not cover Pedro Porro because Spurs' defense is quite. Let's just say that they're so forward foot in their approach that they have holes in the back, and then they certainly have holes on Porro's side, who's not the best defender to begin with. But Porro does offer much more attacking return than Udogie. Not in terms of positioning, they both get forward. We saw Udogie smashing that left half space, right? Recently, but Udogie is just a mess in and around the box. It's like that one shot where he just mistimed his steps, and then he had to kind of reach for the ball and sent it like way up into the stands there. So if you can get to, like, I think Porro is a good asset, but Udogie is not. So I don't know how you see this one as we get through this quickly. And I also want to get your thoughts on West Ham. They scored a goal from open play. Shock of the game week.
Well, okay. I'll give full credit to Kudus because it was a wondrous goal. And I do feel that West Ham should be reliant on that sort of transition because the longer West Ham dawdle with the ball, the more set their opponents will be. And they just don't have any sort of dominance in the box at all, no matter which centre forward they play. So really, it's about having their opponents really far forward, and that's why this game plays into their hands, right? Spurs dominate the ball. West Ham counter. So the question is, number one, which areas will West Ham hit the hardest? And the very obvious answer would be behind the fullbacks because Pedro Porro and Udogie will almost certainly be very, very far forward. So yeah, do I foresee Kudus getting returns again? Yes. Do I foresee Bowen getting returns again? Yes. So I don't know if he'll get a hat trick, but yeah, both players, the speed acceleration merchants will almost certainly get chances at the very least. Now, as for Spurs, we have to acknowledge at the very least that it's Mavropanos and Agud in central defense now. So that age-old thing about West Ham's centre backs being reactive and a little bit too passive for their own good, that might be demystified a little bit because against Palace they handled Ozan Edouard pretty well. Well, it's Ozan Edouard, but he handled him pretty well. So the
Yeah,
question
that's the
comes down
thing.
to, yeah, how well you handle threats that you know float between your lines, right? Because West Ham are no doubt going to defend in a 4-4 block. They're gonna have like your fullbacks and your wingers
Mhm.
tucked back in. So um the half spaces will always be exposed because when you have Edson Alvarez and JWP, right, as your two nominal central midfielders, they are not the exact definition of tracking back. They like intercepting passes, they like stopping problems at their root causes. And actually, this is where I feel things might play into West Ham's hands because as they demonstrated against Palace, they are much better forcing mistakes out of Spurs' midfielders. I think well, this if Man City exposed anything, it is a sign that Yves Bissouma has to be rested. And given the amount of quality that they have as backup, right? Well, we can ignore Højbjerg for a little bit. But if you pair Pape Matar with someone more practical in central midfield, throw in Oliver Skip for all I care. But
Mhm.
as long as your central midfield is practical, then you can enable everyone else that's wonderful going forward. Because Spurs right now, without Madison, are just keeping things simple, really. Like, they have flank players that work with each other, Poro on the outside of their right winger Kulusevski, and then you've got Brendan Johnson on the left side, who doesn't even really need Udogi. Really, Johnson does not need Udogi. He can very well make his own crosses, and he's gonna be up against old man Sufal. Did you know that Sufal was balding? But yeah, but Spurs will do their own things based on matchups, and I do see a very glowing review for Brendan Johnson coming up in the near future, for sure.
Hmm. Um, as a bald person, I notice when everybody's balding. Lucian, they're starting to get inducted into a secret club. I'm gonna take a one thing. I'm gonna Giovanni Lo Celso had the two matches he's played. He's done exactly what I thought he'd do. He should have played against you guys. He didn't. And Spurs have been able to break lines, and he's played really well. I think he struggles here. I don't think he necessarily struggles. I don't think this game is about him. Let's just put it that way. I think this game is more about the flanks, and I don't see West Ham just keeping up with Son. To be perfectly honest, I think Son could go absolutely ham in this game. There are some questions here in the chat about potential Son captaincy, so we'll get to that. I'll take a quick question here from Black Screen as it pertains to this one. Would you take a hit to take Areola out this week? I would only do that for maybe Raya. That's it.
There's one thing I've learned about goalkeepers is that they eventually get their form back somehow. They do. It's just a
Wait,
matter of how long it
wait,
takes.
so I guess I would. The reason I would do it, I don't think this Areola situation is a form conversation. This is Areola. This is who he's always been. Like, he's not playing poorly. He's playing the way he's always played.
Yeah, and that's why
Played
when I
before
say
at
form, I don't mean
PSV.
by not referring to his form. I'm referring to like his
Mm,
back four's form, and their
mm.
opponents and how they because
They haven't
like
shown any
we've
form all
yeah
season.
yeah so I mean this is the real question, right? We've had this conversation before. What is the anatomy of a clean sheet? We all know what the meaning of a clean sheet is, but
Mm,
we know that various teams get clean sheets in various ways. So for West
correct.
Ham, it's about, they're not like, even though they're managed by David Moyes, they're not going to like sit there and go, okay, you're unable to break us down. West Ham don't do that. They've
No.
actually they actually have a relatively practical game plan, right? They showed that against Sheffield United when they won 2-0, that they win the ball, they hit you on a counter, and West Ham actually sustain momentum and create more chances. West Ham are secretly trying to become more and more progressive as they go to manage game state in their own way. And it's just unfortunate that they've not perfected it. But I do strongly believe that they will eventually get it. I mean, all teams eventually get it. It's just a matter of how long they sustain that form for. So, you know,
And then we're gonna get to the questions here in just a second. We have 12 starred, and I have a few here in Discord. I wanna post this comment by Chris Irvine, FPL Negan on X. Dubravka and Areola rotate quite nicely for the next four weeks. That's an interesting one, and I don't mind it actually. Apparently, someone I forgot to post it. It went up in the chat, but someone said Pope is having surgery. Dubravka will be in probably until April. So
yeah,
so
it's true.
maybe hold Areola, move on. Like if you have Areola and Turner, if you have Areola and Pickford or something like that, and you're looking for something, Dubravka is a gift. No doubt about that. Whether it makes sense for your team to get there, I think it is very much team dependent. Some people are like, I'm looking at that gift, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Some people may be on like, are you gonna go with some people might be all on Newcastle already, and if you go Dubravka, that's the third, and then you have to give up someone like Isak or someone like Gordon. So definitely team dependent there. Hold on. Okay, just quickly, here's a summary of the next 5 from the FDR's perspective. Top, and it's there are 3 teams with an FDR of over 14, and they are Brentford with 14.0, Liverpool 14.0, and Newcastle 14.9. Best defenses are Newcastle 4.3, Liverpool 2.3. There's another 2.3 in the there it is, and Brentford 2.3. But and that's remember Brentford have that blank, so I don't think it's probably too late to invest there. Won't go over the zonals just in the interest of time, or the other matchups. Do come back and check this out about an hour and 30 minutes in the show here. Oops, that's captaincy. We won't get to captaincy yet. Before captaincy, actually, let's go straight to that captaincy. Since I brought it up on there anyway, and then we can get right into it. Oops. So there it is. Mohamed Salah coming in at 96 on the captaincy metric. Son is second. And then let's talk about Son a little bit in terms of captaincy. He's coming in at 90. Watkins 1 point behind him at 89. Then Holland 87. Darwin Nunez up there. We know Mariner must like him if he's coming in here at 83. And right behind Darwin Nunez, the person that I've compared Darwin Nunez to recently is Nico Jackson at 80. Everyone else is below 80 there. So we won't get into those too much. How are you seeing this one? Well, first of all, who's your captain?
Mohamed Salah.
Salah.
Yeah.
Any question? No.
Okay, sorry. I've got a little bit of a unique perspective where I've made peace with not owning Son all season unless he has a double game week. So I'm very, very happy with that because I think everyone realizes now that FPL is a game where you try to own 3 players out of Haaland, Salah, Son, and somebody else. But yeah, you basically have like 3 to 4 premiums, and you have to lose out on one of them. And if that means losing out on Son, yeah, I'm okay. He gets a double-digit haul. That doesn't really hurt me. I'm okay with that. So, yeah, the cap for me, this stage of the season, December in particular, is a month where I prefer to have my captaincies just between the top 2, Salah and Haaland, because yeah, I just don't want to think about it. I want to spend my free transfers and my hits like altering the rest of the squad and be more clever with the makeup of the squad rather than my captaincy and just have template players. So yeah, I'm cool with that.
Okay. I think Son is a great differential shout. I can't go off Salah despite a potential maybe new manager bounce with Chris Wilder coming in. Let's just hope that new manager. I think looks like Heckingbottom is on his way out. Chris Wilder looks to be returning while Lucian looks that up. Yeah, I don't know. Salah, it's too obvious. So I wouldn't be straying from that. Definitely, like Nima says, try to own these players, as many players on here as you can, and always take into account rotation. Let's see. I think before we get to the thank you, let's put us both up on the screen here, and let's get into the questions now, Lucy. And we'll start with Discord questions. First one's coming in from Parmo. Who to go for between Dubravka and Gordon? So this is what that situation we were talking about. By getting Dubravka, that limits you, and you can't get Gordon. This person, which is Parmo in our Discord, has Trippier and Isak already.
Yeah, it's Gordon. Absolutely Gordon.
Gordon.
No question. Yeah.
No question. I totally agree. Not close. Connor Hunt, FPL Hunt, comes to us. He says, benching dilemma this week. Does he bench Trippier, Gordon, Pedro Porro, Palmer?
Is it just those four?
I guess there's some other ones here. He has Tsimikas, White, Porro, Trippier, Palmer, Gordon. Let's just go to the more salient ones, which is I think he wrote in Trippier / Gordon, but I would say Porro, Trippier, Palmer, Gordon. Who do you bench? Bench one.
Goodness. I'd probably bench Palmer actually.
Agreed. Bench Palmer, buddy. Claire, she says, I'm debating whether to roll my free transfer this week or to swap out Wissa for Cunha.
Oh, man. I'd really hesitate. I would really hesitate. Okay, you know what? In your shoes, yes, I would do it. Okay, I'll give you my perspective. In your shoes, I would do it.
You are a risk taker. So
yes.
that is the upside risk, Claire. The other perspective is obviously Wissa against Brighton. The matchup is fine. He could definitely get something. And maybe those 2 free transfers might serve you better next game week. If that would be your transfer next game week anyway, do it, I guess. Last one coming in from Parmo again. Solanke versus Isak for the run-in.
If you have a very good first sub, get Isak. If you don't, get Solanke.
I like that. That's a great answer. I'm not going to add to that. So get your questions in. Let me see if no new questions have come in. Oh, there. That's Claire's question coming in here as well. We have Shamil Ayman, keeper Newcastle, Dubravka. Yes, if it makes sense for your team. I think we got to that one. Nick, should I go with Flecken or Areola this week? I'm gonna let you answer this one. He's already asked me this one privately. It's too hard to try to think about it again.
I think okay. If you start Areola, you're basically ready to be disappointed. It just means that literally every other keeper out there has a bad fixture, and you're just gonna take your 2, maybe your 3, and go home. So if you're feeling optimistic about Flecken getting 4 or 5 points from saves, then yeah, get Flecken. Comes down to your perspective of the week itself.
Okay, I say go Flecken because he's just a better goalkeeper. Go with, and when in doubt, go with the better player. Ignatius Brian Laxana, Palace still a good defense. I'll take this one. Nope. Sell. Clint, Martinelli, Saka, and Martinelli, Saka, and Cash Zinchenko. Planned 2 free transfers this week and next.
Ooh.
1 free transfer now. What to prioritize? Martinelli to Saka and Cash to Zinchenko. Those are the 2 free transfers. So let's just put it. Let's just restate it this way. This week, if you had to choose between bringing in Saka or an Arsenal defender, who do you bring in between those two?
I mean, okay, so you're living in basically 2 potential universes, right? You're either going to own Martinelli and Zinchenko, or you're going to own Cash and Saka. And if I own Cash and Saka, I do my very best to bench Cash, wouldn't I? So, if I had the ability to bench Cash this week, then I definitely do the Saka transfer.
Okay, that's well done. I agree with you there. Black screen. Just had to put it up there just to get him a little airtime. I know he's loving a Darwin cap. Nope, you won't get that recommendation on this show, Lucien. Sorry, I'm going to take this. I won't allow it.
I don't. Not yet. I don't have a reason
Not
to.
yet. No,
not yet.
there's no reason to. There's no reason to Captain Darwin. He keeps showing us. True Fandela, which is Victor. On thank you so much. Thanks for the contribution there. He says, I have Cash, Udogi, and Aguerd. Sell one and for who? Sell Aguerd. Get Livramento.
Yeah, I'd sell Cash. I'd still sell Cash because I know Aguerd still starts, so he's a good 2-pointer to come on. But Cash, he gets you. He's like that. That wheel, that spinning wheel that has a whole huge variance of numbers that had Reece James' face on it. Yeah, so that's Cash as well.
I just think Cash. I think Cash will start in game week 18 against Sheffield United. So I still think he's a valuable asset after the next few. Cash, just throw him on your bench and bring him back when you need him. In my opinion, Black screen is Holland a viable captain here. So always a viable captain, but no Rodri changes this team. So I just think that because there's no Rodri, Salah is infinitely better in this case. Colin, I'm happy with my front 7 and have 2 free transfers. Defense is Areola, Livramento, Lascelles, Tsimikas, Gay. Best defender to bring in, James, Saliba, another. I'm going to go with the Arsenal guy. I think Arsenal for this game week, even next against, I think they play Brighton next. I don't mind it too much. What do you think? Best defender?
Well, this is tough because he's gonna need to bench Gehi. He's got 3 solid defenders there already. So I don't even I'd even say try to find ways to maybe downgrade Gehi so that you can turn Areola into Raya.
It's hard to downgrade Gehi that far.
Yeah,
He would need money, and he would need money in the bank. But if he's looking to go like maybe one of those defenders to James or Saliba, I guess he has some money in the bank. But I if you have money to go Areola to Raya, I say do that. Okay, next one is from Clint. Would you get Zinchenko or Porro for Cash? Plan to get both eventually, but a price-wise will mean I can own just one. So Zinchenko, I think you have to see how Tomiyasu's injury is. Even though he has been so nailed and he's been good this season, I say get the best defense in the league. I prefer Zinchenko over Porro myself. Who do you prefer?
Yeah, Zinchenko. In this December period.
Yeah.
Zinchenko.
Yeah, right now. But like I said, if you don't need that spot, if you can afford to keep Cash on your bench, I think that's the way to go. Claire, do I start Mikolenko as well as Trippier or bench Mikolenko and start Castagne this week?
What? Claire, your team is so good.
Claire's, yeah, you love her team. I knew you would.
Miko.
It's tough.
Yeah. No, start Castan. Start Castan.
Yeah, I agree. Start Castagne.
Yeah, just start Castan.
Best captain's choice this game week if you haven't got Son or Liverpool assets. Holland, Saka. Not Saka. I can't recommend Saka. I'm sorry. I tried.
This is tough.
No
Intentionally tough.
Liverpool at all. Oh, an Arsenal defender, Ben White. Ben White. I doubt you have Ben White, but
If you
I
haven't
think
got
he smashes it.
Sun, if you haven't got Sun,
Watkins.
sorry, yeah. You can trust the FDR. You can trust the captaincy metric there. Yeah.
If you trust it, it's City, but yeah, he's high up there in the captaincy metric. There really aren't that many. Oh no! You know who it is? Mbumo. Hitting Mbumo against Brighton's left.
Well, I'd say Saka.
You'd say
I'd
Saka.
say Odegaard. Oh no, sorry. I'd say Odegaard. Odegaard is a much better shot
There you
than
go.
Saka.
So
Yeah.
Odegaard is one, and Mbumo is another one for you there, Combe. Let's see. Gareth Pashley says, thinking of a 3-5-2, but don't know who to bench this week in defense. Have Zinchenko, White, Tsimikas, Trippier. Who do you bench of those four?
Oh, I play all four. I play all four. But yeah, realistically, Ben White. Because there's no guarantee that he'll play 90.
I think it's better if he doesn't play 90. And
yeah.
I think you definitely start the Arsenal guys against Sheffield United, in my opinion. Against Luton, sorry, in my opinion. I think you have to. I agree, play all four, but if you have to bench one, you bench Tsimikas. I think he might not start. I know it's hot. You can't bench Trippier. I don't think you can bench Trippier. And in my opinion, you can't bench the Arsenal guys. So, all right. Let's see if any new questions came in. We got. I'm just going kind of randomly here. Akib comes in. Merry Christmas, everyone. Without Darwin, Akib has something. Oh, that was the wrong one. There was another. Here, Akib has this one. Who should I pick for Douglas Luiz?
As in
Gordon.
to sell?
I guess.
Right. No, to buy. What's Douglas Luiz's price now? Let's go see.
I would say number 1, Gordon. Number 2, short term, Huang. Number 3,
5-6.
Souček. 5-6?
Yeah, 5-6.
Palmer could be good long term. All right, we're gonna move it on here while Lucien looks that up. I think there was a question from. Oh gosh, I lost it here. Nick had a question. Oh, here we go. Start Livramento or Mikolenko?
Livramento.
Start Livramento, Nick. Livramento, Nick. And Akib, Gordon number 1. You can go for Palmer if it's long term. Huang if it's short term. Souček if you want cheap, or even go to one of those 4.6 guys that we talked about earlier. I think that's fine as well. All right, an hour 48, so quite a bit longer than we expected. Sorry about that, Lucien. But we will get out of here. Thank you to everybody in the chat. And hold on, let's go back to. Let's just say one quick, let's get a thank you in here, and then we'll get out. So thank you to our super haulers, FPL Robbie, Greenback Golf, Daddy Bot, Harbor Boy, David Harrison, Zach, and FPL Discomfort. And our haulers, of course, Dread FPL, FPL Craig, Podna, Kevin Rose, Connor Hunt, Blonde, Escotters M, FPL Teacher in the house, Dhoni FPL, Tom Gorsuch, Devendra Raj, Lindsay O, FPL DG Boy 88, Akshay, Dom, Claire, Tursex, Catherine A, Harry Not Kane, Sebastian Koo, Benjamin Lockwood, FPL Rubber Ducky, Nick Khan, Big Mike, General Zod, Jack M, Antonopoulos, TN, FPL Planner, Jamie Baker, Brett M, Mark Bond, maybe, FPL Eric. FPL Eric was that Parmo, those questions from the Discord. Hello, Grady and Parag Gakwad. And then Patreon, we have Elron, FPL California, Thingamabob, Rom Frost, and Mike Bork. Thank you all so much. That was Net That
okay.
Haul.
I have the
Yeah.
answer. To replace Douglas
Quick.
Luiz, Giovanni Lo Celso.
Negative. Don't do it.
Do it, Akib.
And that's it. Akib's gonna do it because he reveres you, teacher. Thanks everybody. Love the chat. Lots of fun. Lucian, thank you for staying up late with us. Hope you get some good rest, get some sleep, and we will see you all next time. We're back. I'm back, I think, Thursday with Craig from Man on Pod. So that'll be fun. Good luck this mid game week and peace.